What happens when a family's darkest secrets are buried beneath monthly confessions and forced repentance? Emma's escape from a twisted tradition of emotional manipulation, violence disguised as love, and a broken system of control sets in motion a chain of events that will change everything. But as she and her cousins plan their freedom, the price of their rebellion will be higher than they ever imagined. Let me know if you'd like to adjust anything. My grandmother forced me to confess imagined sins every full moon while my dad watched, then called me her little helper for making the younger kids cry on command. When I finally opened up about how it broke me, how I used to pinch my own little brother to spare him worse, she smiled and said, "You should be proud. You helped save their souls." I just stared at her. That was 6 years ago. Last night, she locked herself in the basement and cried so quietly, I almost missed it. Every full moon, our entire extended family would gather for the cleansing. Children had to gather in my grandmother's basement and confess every thought, every doubt, every moment of happiness that wasn't centered on the family. Those who didn't cry enough were deemed resistant and faced corrections. I was 7 the first time I understood what corrections meant. My cousin Sarah, 2 years older than me, had smiled during math class because she solved a problem before anyone else. During that month's cleansing, when it was her turn in the circle, she confessed this moment of pride. But she didn't cry. Her voice stayed steady as she admitted to feeling smart, feeling special for those 30 seconds before remembering that individual achievement was selfishness. Grandma's face went cold. "No tears means no true repentance," she said. Sarah disappeared upstairs with 3 aunts. When she came back, her eyes were swollen shut and she couldn't sit properly for a week. After that, we all learned to cry on command. The rules were simple, but impossible. Every joy, every laugh, every good feeling that happened outside family time was a betrayal. Got an A on a test? That was pride. Putting school above blood. Made a friend? That was dividing your loyalty. Enjoyed a song on the radio? You were letting outsiders influence your spirit. But here's what made it truly sick. You also had to confess thoughts you didn't have yet, sins you might commit, doubts that could creep in. If your confession list was too short, that meant you were hiding something too long, and you were reigning in darkness. My little brother Marcus was 5 when he made his first real confession. He'd been happy at recess because he went down the slide fast. That was it. 5 years old and sobbing because sliding made him smile. But his tears weren't desperate enough. Weren't enough. Dad noticed. Dad always noticed when the crying didn't ring true. "He's fighting it," Dad told Grandma. "The resistance is strong in this one." I knew what that meant. We all knew Marcus was going to face corrections unless his tears became more convincing in the next 30 seconds. I did something then that changed everything. I reached over and pinched Marcus hard on the soft skin under his arm where bruises wouldn't show. He shrieked. Real pain, real tears. The adults nodded approvingly. "There it is," Grandma murmured. The spirit breaking through. After that night, I became the pincher. During every cleansing, the younger kids would sit near me, and when their tears weren't enough, I'd help. A twist of skin, a sharp fingernail, whatever it took to keep them from corrections. I collected their pain in small doses to save them from the larger horrors. By 13, I was an expert at the performance. I kept a mental list of fake sins to confess, spacing them out across months so they seemed natural. I practiced crying in the bathroom mirror, learning exactly how to make my voice crack, how to let snot run for authenticity. But the full moons came too fast. Every 28 days, another basement gathering, another circle of confession, another night of measuring tears. Like currency, the worst part was how they made us grateful. After each cleansing, we had to thank them. "Thank you for saving me from myself. Thank you for loving me enough to correct my path. Thank you for keeping our family pure." The words tasted like ash, but saying them wrong meant starting the whole process over. My cousin David once mumbled his gratitude. 4 hours later, when the second round of cleansing finally ended, his gratitude was crystal clear. Things escalated when my sister Emma turned 15. She was always the rebellious one, the one who asked why we couldn't just love God without the monthly interrogations. We all knew she was right. During one cleansing, she refused to confess anything. just sat there silent while the family waited. The basement got so quiet you could hear the water heater clicking. "I didn't have any impure thoughts," she said finally. "I only thought about family all month." It was a lie so bold it took my breath away. Grandma stood up slowly, and I knew Emma had crossed a line none of us had even approached before. They kept her upstairs for 3 hours. The rest of us sat in that basement, continuing our confessions while listening to the footsteps above, the muffled sounds, the sudden silences that were worse than screams. When they brought her back down, Emma was different. Not broken exactly, but careful, measured. She confessed beautifully after that, tears streaming at exactly the right moments. But I saw her keeping count of something on her fingers when she thought no one was looking. Days, maybe, until she turned 18. The October before I turned 16, something went wrong with the basement lights during cleansing. In the darkness, waiting for someone to fix the fuse, I heard my youngest cousin whisper, "I hate this. I hate them." In the black, where no one could see who spoke, other voices joined. Me too. I thought I was the only one. How do we make it stop? Then the lights blazed back on, and we were all crying again, confessing again, playing our parts. But something had shifted in those dark moments. Were we all thinking the same thing? If we wanted to escape, we had to work together. The next morning, I found Emma in the garage organizing old boxes with mechanical precision. She glanced at me, then at the door, then continued sorting. I picked up a box and started helping. Neither of us spoke about the darkness, about the whispers, about the shared hatred that had finally been voiced. Over the next week, I noticed things, small things. David started sitting next to the younger kids during family dinners, casually, blocking them from Grandma's direct line of sight when they forgot to pray before eating. Sarah began creating distractions during pre-cleansing gatherings, spilling drinks or asking elaborate questions about family history that bought others time to compose themselves. Even Marcus, only 8 now, had started warning cousins when adults were approaching. We were protecting each other without ever discussing it, but protection wasn't enough. We all knew that. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later. Emma had been assigned to help Grandma prepare the basement for the next cleansing. I watched her carry down folding chairs, each trip taking longer than necessary. When she finally emerged, she pulled me into the pantry. She pressed something into my hand, a key, the basement door key. I stared at it, understanding immediately. During cleansings, they locked us in. Fire hazard, sure, but family purity came first. Emma had somehow made a copy. That night, I showed David. He studied it like it might disappear, then handed it back. We both knew what this meant. An escape. Root, but also evidence. If they found it, the corrections would be beyond anything we'd experienced. David started mapping the house during gatherings, memorizing which floorboards creaked, which doors stuck, where adults congregated during different times. Sarah documented patterns in her school notebook, disguised as history homework. When adults checked rooms, who went where, how long corrections typically lasted, I became the coordinator. During family meals, I'd tap sequences on the table. 2 taps meant someone needed help with their performance at the next cleansing. 3 meant we needed to meet. 4 meant danger. Abort whatever you were doing. Our first real test came during November's cleansing. Cousin Rachel, just 6, couldn't cry. Her confession about laughing at a cartoon came out flat, emotionless. Grandma's eyes narrowed. I reached for my usual pinching position, but David was faster. He accidentally knocked over his water glass, sending it rolling toward Rachel. The crash made her jump, then genuinely tear up from surprise. It wasn't much, but it was enough to avoid immediate correction. After that, we developed a whole system. Spilled water for sudden scares. Pressure points on the hand that looked like comforting holds, but actually caused sharp pain. Sarah perfected, a way of stepping on toes that appeared completely accidental, but they were getting suspicious. Dad started watching me more closely, especially during my interactions with the younger kids. Aunt Martha began counting how many times water was spilled. Uncle James started checking our arms for marks. Cousin Peter, 11 and desperate to please, had been struggling with corrections for months. His confessions were never quite right. his tears never quite enough. During one particularly brutal session, where he'd been upstairs for 2 hours, we heard him sobbing out words that made my blood freeze. They help each other. They have signals. I've seen them. The basement went silent. Even the water heater seemed to stop clicking. Grandma's footsteps on the stairs were slow, deliberate. She surveyed us all, her face unreadable. Then she smiled. That was worse than anger. How beautiful, she said, that you found ways to support each other's purification. Let's explore this together. They'd announced new procedures, searches before entering the basement, no personal items allowed, and worst of, all corrections would now be immediate. No more upstairs trips. Everything would happen in front of everyone. The night before, I couldn't sleep. Emma's bed was empty, though her window remained closed. I found her in the garage again, but this time she wasn't organizing. She was deciding what to take. I helped her pack 2 changes of clothes, the money she'd saved from birthday cards, a picture of all us cousins from last summer, before Peter's betrayal, before the darkness confession, before everything went wrong. She hugged me at dawn, whispered bus numbers in my ear, made me promise to protect the others. Then she walked to school like any other day and never came home.